Hi everyone, and welcome to this APAF F-16 training demonstration. This demonstration will cover the last part of CS1, which is landing the aircraft. In this video, we'll be doing a straight-in approach on Vaisani, runway 31. I've applied what we learned in the last lesson to get myself lined up for the runway. As you can see here, we have our needle, our course line has lined up with our actual waypoint. Our course being 309, and it has closed up here to indicate that we are currently on the course we need to hit the runway that is off in front of us. As I unpause, I'm going to wait until I am below 300 knots to put my gear down. As I do so, we will receive some new symbology here on our HUD, and we'll pause again to go over what some of that symbology means. Let's go ahead and unpause. I currently have my air brake extended to get me slow here for this approach to Vaisani. This is just a straight-in landing. I am slowly having to pitch back up to keep my velocity vector where I want it. As our nose comes up, let's go ahead and put our gear down. And our symbology has changed. Here we have a few different things we need to pay attention to. Obviously we have our speed, which we're used to using. We have our altitude. This is our barometric altitude and our radar altitude, and we are 10 miles from our waypoint. We have additionally, since we've put our gear down, gained two new pieces of symbology. We have our angle of attack bracket on the HUD. This is what we're going to use to make sure that we are on the correct angle of attack on approach to the runway. And we have our negative 2.5 degree descent line. This is what we're going to be lining up with the threshold of the runway as we come in. A difficult thing about the F-16, if you've never landed it before, there are multiple things that we're trying to line up all at once. So we're referencing this angle of attack bracket. We're trying to put the top of it aligned with our velocity vector. We're trying to align our velocity vector itself with the piano marks on the runway, which we'll see as we get closer. And again, we're trying to put this negative 2.5 degree descent line on the threshold of the runway. As we get closer, we'll slow down and make sure things look the way they're supposed to. Additionally, this is our AOA indexer right here, which does pretty much the same thing as the angle of attack bracket. It makes sure that we are on our angle of attack. It's just slightly different symbology. So let's go ahead and unpause. Our speed continues to descend here, and I am applying some aft stick to bring that angle of attack bracket up to my velocity vector. And I am now applying just a little bit of throttle. I do need to fly a little bit higher here to get that negative 2.5 degree mark aligned with the threshold of the runway. So a little bit of throttle, keep the speed up, keep the altitude up as things close in. And now we're just holding things steady and continuing our approach. That negative 2.5 degree line is coming up. It certainly is a difficult task to understand getting all of these things lined up at once if you've never done it before. Once you've done it a couple times and you can start to see it, you kind of understand how it's supposed to work. Okay, so right about there, that negative 2.5 degree descent mark is lined up with our threshold. We're going to pitch our nose back down. And we're going to point it at the end of the runway. And I'm throttling back just a little bit. I'm trying to keep the top of that angle of attack bracket lined up with that velocity vector. We are now 5 miles on our approach. Now the F-16 is an aircraft that has a very small gear, so we will be doing what's called a flared landing, what's called air braking. We will be, as we touch down, we'll be pitching our nose up and keeping our front gear off of the ground to try to use the aircraft's aerodynamics to slow it down. We are now about 1.5 miles away. I'm going to go ahead and pause here in just a moment. And pause. So as we can see, we have our velocity vector lined up with the piano marks on the runway. We have our negative 2.5 degree descent mark a little bit high currently. We'd like it to be closer to the threshold of the runway, but it's okay. This is still a fine approach. As we touch our wheels down, we'll be pitching our nose up. We're going to point this velocity vector at the end of the runway. We'll be pitching our nose up. We have our actual nose indicator here. We're going to be pitching that up to about 12 to 13 degrees. We have our speed brakes extended, and we're going to be, once the nose wheel touches down, we're going to be using our rudder to control ourselves, and we will be full aft on the stick for as much aero braking as possible. Let's go ahead and unpause. And we are over the threshold. We're going to cut to idle and pitch our nose up. Pull that nose up a little more. We are full aft on the stick. And we're going to start pumping our wheel brakes. We're going to turn on our nose wheel steering. And we'll come to a stop. As we come off of the runway, we'll put our speed brakes back in. And we are clear of the active runway. Thank you for watching this APAF F-16 training video, and I will see you on the next one.